Okay, this video will help you understand how to prepare a ledger in a service business. We know that it is very important that when we record transactions in the general journal, that does not end there. So we have to transfer the record into another book, which is called as the book of the final entry. This book of final entry is where we will do the summary of the accounts pertaining to the amounts appearing in our general journal. Okay, now I will be teaching you how to do it using this Screencastify. So let us first look at the definition of a ledger. From dictionary.com, ledger is defined as a book of final entry. You will notice that in bookkeeping, we define ledger as a book of final entry in which business transactions are recorded. The moment that when the moment that we transfer the record from the general journal to the general ledger, we do it to ensure that we'll be able to summarize the amounts for that particular account. Let us say, for example, if we will be looking for the total amount of cash that the business acquired and the business paid in a certain period, we need to look at it in the general ledger. Okay? So there is another definition of the general ledger. Let's look at the definition by Investopedia. Investopedia define a general ledger as a company's set of numbered accounts for its accounting records. The ledger provides a complete record of financial transactions over the life of the company. The ledger holds account information that is needed to prepare the financial statements and includes for assets, liabilities, owner's equity, revenue, and expenses. In an actual business, chart of accounts is the basis in order to prepare for the ledger. So the sequence of the account titles appearing in the chart of accounts is also the sequence that we will be using when we prepare the ledger. Let's say, for example, because cash is pre-numbered as 100 in our chart of accounts, then our ledger for cash is 100. It means that one account gets one ledger. Okay? So that is what we need to remember about a general ledger. Again, it's significant that we have to understand that general ledger is otherwise known as the book of the final entry. So I have here on my screen a sample of a ledger for cash. We can find that we have here an account name labeled cash, an account number which is 100. This is taken from the chart of accounts. We have here the heading for its entry, and we will notice that we have a 3-column worksheet used for this purpose. On the first is your date column, next is your particular columns, and then your folio of reference or your post reference. We have on the first column your debit, your second column is the credit, and your third column is your balance. Okay, so if this is what we will be using as our ledger for cash, then we need to use another file. Let's say this is the transaction of a certain business recorded on December 2016. These are some of the chosen transactions appearing in the general journal. So we have assumed that we have 2 pages record. On December 1 to December 4 is our first page, and on the second page it starts on December 15. So we have to write the date, okay, the month. So assuming that there is already a column heading intended for this matter. Now let us start with transferring this amount. We call that process as posting. So we will be posting the entry for cash for our ledger in cash. So since on December 1, we have a debit of cash which happens because the business received it for the service rendered. So we have to write here December 2016 should only appear once. This is just similar to writing in the general journal. The rule is the same. We have to write here, it happens on December 1. And the reason why we received cash is because we rendered service on cash. So we write on the particular rendered service. Okay, so this time we'll be using the folio of reference. We know that this entry was taken from page 1 of the general journal, and therefore in the folio of reference, you'll have to write GJ1. That GJ1 pertains to your general journal 1. General journal page 1. Okay. And we have a debit of 35,000. So we have to write here debit 35,000. Okay, we know that we have a balance of 35,000 and that balance is a debit balance. For what reason we assume that? Because our amount for debit recorded first is 35,000. Therefore, our balance is a debit balance equivalent to 35,000. We are done with the first entry. Now, we'll go back to our general journal entry and we have to write under the folio of reference or the post reference, the account number 100. It means that when this 100 is written in the folio of reference in the general journal, then it means that that account or that entry has already been posted to your general journal. I mean to your general ledger. So that's why it is written here already. Now let's proceed to the second appearance of your cash. Your second appearance of cash happens on December 2. So you have to write in your ledger December 2. There is a debit of 850,000 cash because the owner invested cash. So in the particulars, we have to write investment of the owner. Okay, we know that that 850,000 cash was invested by the owner and that record appears on your general journal, page 1. We debit 850,000 as written in our entry. Okay. Now, we need to add the 35,000 to 850,000 because both are debited. So our balance now will become 885,000. So this is a running total, meaning you add values and provide the balance if they appears on the same column. If it happens that one value appears on the other side, you need to deduct that amount. Okay? Let's consider the third appearance of cash. By the way, this is already entered in the ledger. Therefore, we have now to write the account number 100 as it is already transferred. Now we proceed with the third appearance of cash which happened on December 3. Okay, there is a payment for business permit. So we have to write paid business permit. Paid business permit. So this was taken on General Journal page 1 and we credit an amount of 2,500. Because 2,500 appears on the credit side, we technically have to deduct this value from the balance of 885,000. Our balance now is still a debit balance, but it becomes lesser because we deduct the 2,500. Therefore, our amount is equivalent to 882,500 this time. Now, we will proceed with the fourth appearance of cash which happened on December 4. There is a payment for water bill. So, we have to write paid water bill. This is recorded in General Journal, page 1, and this is again credited. So, Okay, this is a continuation of the previous video about the posting. This is transferring the record from the general journal to the general ledger. We are now on the fourth transaction which we recorded as payment for the water bill. The amount is credited with 3,500, and therefore this 3,500 must be deducted from the existing balance of 882 500, which is a debit balance. So getting the difference between 882,000 and 3,500, we now have a balance of 879,000. So that is posting our fourth entry. This cash is already posted, so therefore we have to write 100. This is another posted, we have to write 100. Remember that when we are already done with the first page, we now continue with the record for cash. Let us say in this example, the next appearance is on December 15, and if it happens on December 15, therefore, we write the date December 15. We received an amount of cash because we rendered service, and therefore, we have to write rendered service. This is now General Journal page 2 because it appears on page number 2. It's with a 23,000 debit, so 23,000 is debited. We know that our 879,000 is a debit balance and there is another debit, therefore we have to add. Our balance now is 902,000. Proceeding to the next entry is December 19, and there is a cash drawing of the owner. We have to credit cash and explain the particulars in our ledger that this is drawing of the owner. Drawing of the owner. So drawing of the owner appears on our general journal page 2. This is a credit of 5,000. And we know again that because this is a credit and our existing balance is a debit balance, therefore we need to deduct the amount from the existing debit balance. And here, 897,000 is now our final amount. Okay. In order for us to ensure that our format is accurately done, remember that sign of peso must be written on the first appearance. So, sign of peso in the debit column must be written in the 35,000, and then your credit amount must contain the sign of peso in the 2,500, and then the balance, you have to write the sign of peso on the 300 and the 35,000. And because this is already our final amount, it is always important that we have to double rule. We double rule this amount. Okay. So to double rule the amount is just to simply use ruler and write a double ruling. Going back to our general ledger, general journal, we have to write 100 because it's already transferred. Another 100 as it is already transferred. So that is how we do the posting. This process must be done in all of the accounts appearing in your general journal. So that means if you're done with cash and your next is to record on the account receivable, then you have to do the same. Just repeat the process until you are done with transferring all of the amounts and the accounts recorded in your general journal. This amount appearing in your ledger will be used in the preparations of your trial balance. Okay, I hope that you have learned something from this video about posting and preparations of the ledger. Thank you very much.